She's dying in labor with triplets, but the billionaire CEO father is marrying his mistress downstairs. Room 307, Hawthorne Grand Hotel. I need you to push one more time, Sophia. The babies are in distress. I can't do this anymore. Yes, you can. Think about your children. They need you to fight. Grand Ballroom, Hawthorne Grand Hotel. Do you, Alexander Hawthorne, take Victoria Ashford to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. 1 building, 2 floors. For lives hanging in the balance. While 500 of Manhattan's elite raised champagne glasses to celebrate Alexander Hawthorne's marriage to society heiress Victoria Ashford, 23 floors above them, the woman carrying his triplets was dying. Where is the father? We need his consent for emergency surgery. He's unavailable. He's getting married. Ma'am, if we don't operate in the next 10 minutes, we could lose all 4 of them. This is the story of a billionaire CEO who thought he could have everything, success, status, and the perfect society marriage, while the woman who loved him paid the ultimate price for his betrayal. But what Alexander Hawthorne was about to discover is that some choices can't be undone, some betrayals can't be forgiven, and some losses cost more than all the money in the world. Have you ever watched someone choose their image over their integrity? Their reputation over their responsibility? Today's story will show you exactly what happens when a man values his social status more than the woman dying to give him 3 children. But here's what makes this story absolutely devastating. The moment Alexander realizes what he's lost will change him forever, but by then, it might be too late to save the only thing that ever truly mattered. If you're ready for a story about the real cost of betrayal, about the price of choosing convenience over character, hit that like button right now. And make sure you're subscribed to Lux Love Chronicles, because this is the kind of story that shows us what people are really made of when everything is on the line. 2 years ago, let me take you back to understand how Alexander Hawthorne became the man standing at that altar while the mother of his children fought for her life. 2 years ago, Alexander was at the pinnacle of Manhattan's real estate empire. Hawthorne Enterprises owned 47 properties across New York City, including some of the most prestigious hotels, office buildings, and residential complexes in the world. But Alexander wasn't born into this wealth. His father had been a construction foreman in Queens, his mother a seamstress who took in extra work to make ends meet. Alexander had clawed his way from a 1-bedroom apartment in Astoria to a penthouse overlooking Central Park through sheer determination and an unshakable belief that image was everything. Perception is reality in this business, he told Forbes magazine in a cover story 6 months earlier. People don't just buy property from me, they buy into the Hawthorne brand. Excellence, luxury, exclusivity. At 38, Alexander had never been married. Not because he couldn't find women, his combination of wealth, power, and devastating good looks ensured a constant stream of interested parties, but because marriage felt like a limitation. A contract that might interfere with his ability to project the perfect image to potential clients and investors. Why buy the cow when you can have the whole dairy for free? He'd joke with his business partners over scotch that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But Alexander's approach to relationships was about to collide with something he'd never anticipated: genuine connection. 18 months ago, the Hawthorne Grand Hotel was Alexander's crown jewel, a 45-story masterpiece of glass and steel in the heart of Manhattan. When he decided to renovate the penthouse floors to attract even more elite clientele, he hired the most exclusive interior design firm in the city. That's how he met Sophia Martinez. She walked into his conference room on a Tuesday morning in March, wearing a simple black dress and carrying a portfolio that contained some of the most innovative design concepts he'd ever seen. "Mr. Hawthorne, I understand you want luxury, but I think what you really want is timeless elegance," she said, spreading her sketches across his mahogany conference table. "What's the difference? Luxury is about cost. Elegance is about soul." She was nothing like the women in his usual circle. No designer clothes, no society connections, no obvious attempts to impress him with her pedigree. Sophia Martinez was simply real. "Tell me about this concept," he said, pointing to a sketch of the penthouse living area. "The space should feel like a sanctuary, not a showroom. Your guests should feel welcomed, not intimidated. Comfort and beauty aren't mutually exclusive." Alexander found himself studying her as much as her designs. She had warm brown eyes that lit up when she talked about her work, and an unconscious habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. "You're not what I expected," he admitted. "What did you expect? Someone more formal, more impressed by who I am?" Sophia smiled. "Mr. Hawthorne, I'm impressed by what you've built. But buildings are just structures until people make them homes. My job is to help you create spaces where people want to live, not just spaces they want to be seen in." It was the first time in years that someone had spoken to him about creating something meaningful rather than profitable. "When can you start?" "Start what?" "The renovation. You're hired. Don't you want to see proposals from other firms? Check my references. I've seen enough. You understand something my previous designers missed, which is that having everything means nothing if it doesn't feel like home." The renovation took 4 months. 4 months of daily meetings, site visits, and conversations that gradually shifted from professional to personal. "You grew up here in the city?" Alexander asked one afternoon as they reviewed fabric samples for the penthouse master suite. "Queens. My parents still live in the same apartment where I grew up." "Do you see them often?" "Every Sunday. Family dinner is sacred in the Martinez household." "That sounds nice. You say that like it's a foreign concept." "It is, I suppose. My parents died in a car accident when I was 22. I've been on my own since then." Something in his tone made Sophia look up from the fabric swatches. "I'm sorry. That must have been incredibly difficult." It was motivating. Nothing makes you more determined to succeed than knowing there's no safety net. "Is that what drives you?" "Fear of falling." The question was too perceptive, too close to truths he'd never articulated to anyone. "What drives you?" he deflected. "The belief that beautiful spaces can heal people. That when someone comes home to a place that truly reflects who they are, they remember what matters." "And what matters?" "Connection. Love. The feeling that you belong somewhere with someone." Alexander found himself thinking about that conversation for weeks afterward. When was the last time he'd felt like he belonged somewhere? When was the last time home had meant anything more than expensive real estate? The first time Alexander kissed Sophia was the night the renovation was completed. They were standing in the penthouse living room, surrounded by the elegant, comfortable beauty she'd created, and he realized that for the first time in his adult life, his space felt like a home. "You've outdone yourself," he said, looking around at rooms that managed to be both luxurious and welcoming. "We've outdone ourselves," she corrected. "This was a collaboration." "Was it?" "The best design always is. I created the vision, but you trusted me with your space. That's not easy for someone like you." "Someone like me?" "Someone who's used to controlling every detail of his environment." She was right, and they both knew it. Alexander had given her more creative freedom than he'd ever given anyone with anything. "Why did you trust me?" Sophia asked softly. "Because you see things differently than I do. You see possibilities I miss." "Like what?" "Like the possibility that success doesn't have to mean being alone." The kiss was inevitable, the culmination of 4 months of growing attraction and emotional connection. But what surprised Alexander was how right it felt, not like a conquest or a transaction, but like coming home. "This complicates things," Sophia murmured against his lips. "Everything worthwhile is complicated. I don't date clients. The project is finished. I'm not your client anymore." "Then what are you?" "I'm the man who wants to take you to dinner tomorrow night." "Just dinner. Just dinner. And maybe breakfast." Sophia laughed, and the sound filled the penthouse with warmth Alexander hadn't known was missing. Their relationship developed gradually, organically. Unlike the women Alexander typically dated, socialites and models who treated dating like a performance, Sophia was refreshingly genuine. She introduced him to hole-in-the-wall restaurants in Queens where the food was incredible, but the decor was questionable. She dragged him to art galleries in Brooklyn featuring artists nobody had heard of yet. She made him laugh with stories about her large, loud, loving family who treated Sunday dinner like a sacred ritual. "They want to meet you," she said 6 months into their relationship as they lay in bed on a lazy Saturday morning. "Your family. My parents. My sisters. They've heard a lot about you. All good things, I hope. Complicated things. They can't figure out why a successful businessman is dating their baby sister." "What did you tell them?" "That you're not what you seem to be on the surface." "What am I on the surface?" "Intimidating. Powerful. Out of my league. And underneath? Lonely. Driven by fear instead of ambition." more interested in building walls than relationships. The assessment should have stung. Instead, it felt like relief, being truly seen by someone who loved him anyway. And yet you're here. I'm here because underneath all of that, you're someone who's capable of extraordinary love. You just don't know it yet. For 18 months, Alexander experienced something he'd never had before: partnership. Sophia understood his work pressures without being intimidated by them. She attended business dinners when he needed a companion, but never tried to insert herself into his professional decisions. How was the Tokyo meeting? She'd ask when he returned from business trips. Productive. The investors are interested in expanding our hotel chain internationally. That's what you wanted, right? Global expansion. It's what I thought I wanted. And now I'm realizing that success feels empty when there's no one to share it with. You're sharing it with me. Are you sure about that? Sometimes I feel like I'm just dragging you along for the ride. Alexander, I'm here because I choose to be. Not because of your money or your success, but because of who you are when you're not performing for the world. Who am I when I'm not performing? You're the man who remembers that I like my coffee with 2 sugars. Who calls to check on me when I'm working late? Who holds me when I have nightmares about losing the people I love? It was true. With Sophia, Alexander found himself capable of small gestures of care that felt more meaningful than grand romantic displays. He learned her routines, her preferences, her fears. He began to understand that love wasn't about conquering or possessing someone. It was about making their life better simply by being in it. I love you, he told her one evening as they watched the sunset from his penthouse terrace. I love you too. I've never said that to anyone before. Not romantically. I know. How do you know? Because you say it like you're surprised by your own capacity for feeling it. I am surprised. I thought love was for people who had time for distractions. And now I think everything else is the distraction. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander began to envision a future that included someone else. Not just companionship or convenience, but genuine partnership. He started including Sophia in long-term planning conversations. When should they move in together officially? Did she want to travel? What kind of life did she envision for them? I want simplicity, she told him one night. Not poverty, but simplicity. I want Sunday dinners with family. I want a garden where we can grow tomatoes. I want children who feel secure and loved. Children, eventually, when we're both ready. How many children? 2 or 3. Enough to fill a house with laughter. Not so many that we can't give them individual attention. Alexander found himself imagining that future, messy, chaotic, full of the kind of love he'd never experienced growing up. I think I'd like that, he said quietly. Really? Really? It was a promise neither of them knew would be tested much sooner than they anticipated. 8 months ago, the pregnancy test showed positive on a Tuesday morning in October. Sophia stared at the 2 pink lines for a full 5 minutes before calling Alexander at his office. Can you come home? What's wrong? You sound strange. Nothing's wrong. I need to tell you something in person. Sophia, you're scaring me. I'm pregnant. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Sophia wondered if the call had dropped. Alexander? Did you hear me? I heard you. I'm coming home. He arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing his suit from the morning's board meeting. Sophia was sitting on the couch in the penthouse living room she'd designed, holding the pregnancy test like a piece of evidence. Are you sure? I took 3 tests. They're all positive. How do you feel about it? Terrified. Excited. Overwhelmed. She looked up at him. How do you feel about it? Alexander sat beside her, taking the test from her hands and staring at it, as if it might change if he looked long enough. I don't know. This wasn't planned. No, it wasn't. But we talked about children. About a future together. We did. So this is just sooner than we anticipated. Much sooner. We've only been together 18 months. We're not even engaged. The word engaged hung in the air between them like a challenge. Alexander had been thinking about marriage, but in abstract terms, something for the distant future when his business was more stable, when the timing was perfect. Does that matter? The engagement part. It matters to me. I want my children to have married parents. I want stability, commitment, the whole foundation. Sophia, we have commitment. We have stability. Do we? Because you look terrified right now. He was terrified. Not of her, not of the pregnancy, but of what it represented. The end of his carefully controlled life, the beginning of responsibilities he wasn't sure he was ready for. I need some time to process this. How much time? I don't know. A few days? A week? Sophia nodded, but something shifted in her expression, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. Take all the time you need. But Alexander, I'm having this baby whether you're ready or not. The question is whether you're going to be part of it. Of course I'm going to be part of it. Don't be ridiculous. Then why do you look like you're planning an escape route? Because he was. Not from her, exactly, but from the future that was suddenly rushing toward him faster than he could control. 3 weeks later, they sat in Dr. Sarachin's office for Sophia's first prenatal appointment. Alexander had spent those weeks vacillating between excitement and panic, but he'd shown up. That had to count for something. Everything looks good, Dr. Chin said, reviewing Sophia's test results. Your hormone levels are excellent, and based on your last menstrual period, you're about 8 weeks along. When will we be able to hear the heartbeat? Sophia asked. We should be able to pick it up today with the Doppler. Let's take a look. Dr. Chin moved the ultrasound wand across Sophia's barely visible bump, searching for the telltale flutter of a heartbeat. When the sound filled the room, rapid, strong, unmistakably alive, Alexander felt something shift inside his chest. There it is, Dr. Chun said with a smile. Healthy and strong. But as she continued the ultrasound, her expression changed. Is something wrong? Sophia asked immediately. Not wrong exactly. Just unexpected. Hold on a moment. Dr. Chin moved the wand to different positions, studying the screen with increasing intensity. What is it? Alexander leaned forward, trying to read the doctor's expression. Well, this is interesting. It appears you're having multiples. Twins? Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. Actually, I'm seeing 3 distinct heartbeats. Congratulations, you're having triplets. The room went silent except for the 3 rapid heartbeats echoing from the ultrasound machine. Sophia stared at the screen in wonder, tears streaming down her face. Alexander stared at the screen in terror. Triplets, he managed. Yes, it's rare, about 1 in 10,000 pregnancies, but it happens. You'll need to see a high-risk specialist, and the pregnancy will require careful monitoring, but many triplet pregnancies result in healthy babies. 3 babies, Sophia whispered, her hand moving protectively to her stomach. 3 babies, Alexander echoed, but his tone was completely different. As they left the doctor's office, Sophia was glowing with an excitement that Alexander couldn't share. Can you believe it? 3 babies. We're going to have 3 babies. Sophia, this changes everything. What do you mean? I mean 3 children instead of 1. 3 times the responsibility, 3 times the expense, 3 times the love, 3 times the joy, 3 times the blessing, 3 times the chaos, 3 times the demands on our time, our freedom, our relationship. Sophia stopped walking and turned to face him on the sidewalk outside the medical building. Alexander, are you having second thoughts about this? I'm having realistic thoughts about this. 1 baby is manageable. 3 babies is what? Overwhelming. So you want me to what? Choose which ones to keep. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Alexander looked at this woman he loved, carrying 3 of his children, and felt the walls of his carefully controlled life crashing down around him. I'm saying I need time to figure out how to handle this. We handle it together. That's what partners do. Sophia, you don't understand the pressure I'm under at work right now. The Tokyo expansion, the hotel acquisitions, the work will always be there, Alexander. Our children won't wait for your business schedule to clear up. Our children aren't even born yet. We have 7 months to figure this out. 6 months. High-risk pregnancies often deliver early. The timeline kept shrinking, the pressure kept mounting, and Alexander felt himself beginning to retreat into the emotional fortress he'd built around his heart years earlier. It was the beginning of the end, though neither of them knew it yet. This story is just getting started. If you're feeling the tension building and want to see how Alexander's fear destroys everything he claims to love, smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed. The next part is going to reveal the devastating choices that lead to that impossible moment, a woman dying in labor while her baby's father marries someone else. Drop a comment below. Have you ever watched someone choose convenience over character? Have you seen what happens when fear wins over love? 6 months ago, The change in Alexander didn't happen overnight. It was subtle at first: longer days at the office, more business trips, a gradual emotional distance that Sophia initially attributed to normal pregnancy adjustment anxiety. At 12 weeks pregnant, Sophia was experiencing the exhaustion and nausea that came with carrying 3 babies. Her body was changing rapidly, her energy was depleted, and she needed Alexander's support more than ever. Instead, she found herself sleeping alone most nights. The Tokyo investors want to fast-track the hotel acquisition, Alexander explained over breakfast one morning, not looking up from his phone. I need to fly out tomorrow for 2 weeks of negotiations. 2 weeks. Alexander, I have my next ultrasound appointment on Friday. You promised you'd be there. Can't you reschedule it? It's a high-risk pregnancy specialist. These appointments aren't easy to get. Then take your sister with you. Or your mother. Sophia set down her coffee cup, studying his face. I want my partner there. The father of my children. Our children. And I'm working to secure their future. Their future doesn't depend on you conquering Asia, Alexander. It depends on you being present for the next 6 months. 6 months that will determine whether Hawthorne Enterprises becomes a global empire or remains a regional player. And which is more important? The question hung in the air like a challenge. 3 months ago, Alexander would have said his family without hesitation. Now, faced with the overwhelming reality of 3 babies and the corresponding responsibilities, he found himself clinging to the familiar comfort of work. It's not about importance. It's about timing. This deal won't wait. Neither will your children. Sophia, please. Try to understand the pressure I'm under. What about the pressure I'm under? I'm carrying 3 babies. My body is changing every day. I'm terrified about the risks, the delivery, the future. I need you. You have me. Do I? Because it feels like I have the ghost of you. The man who's physically present but emotionally absent. Alexander stood abruptly, straightening his tie with sharp movements. I can't do this right now. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. You always have a meeting, Alexander. There's always something more urgent than us. That's not fair, isn't it? He kissed her forehead perfunctorily and left without another word, leaving Sophia alone in the penthouse that was beginning to feel more like a prison than a home. That Friday, Sophia attended the ultrasound appointment alone. She watched the 3 tiny forms on the screen, bigger now, more developed, unmistakably human, and felt a mixture of overwhelming love and profound loneliness. Everything looks perfect, Dr. Reynolds, the specialist, told her. All 3 babies are developing normally, though we'll need to monitor you closely for signs of preterm labor or preeclampsia. What should I watch for? Severe headaches, vision changes, swelling in your hands and face, upper abdominal pain. With triplets, these complications are more common. And if I experience any of those symptoms, immediate medical attention. High-risk pregnancies can turn dangerous very quickly. Sophia nodded, making mental notes while wishing Alexander was there to hear this crucial information himself. When he returned from Tokyo 10 days later, she tried to share the details of the appointment, but he seemed distracted, distant. The babies are healthy. All 3 are growing well, but Dr. Reynolds wants to see me every 2 weeks now because of the increased risks. That's good. Thorough monitoring. Alexander, are you listening to me? Of course I'm listening. What did I just say about the risks? Alexander paused, clearly unable to repeat what she'd told him. Sophia, I'm sorry. The Tokyo deal is consuming everything right now. Once it's finalized, there will be another deal. Another crisis. Another reason why our family comes second. That's not true. Prove it. Take a week off. Spend time with me. Help me prepare for the babies. I can't take a week off right now. Can't or won't. What's the difference? The difference is honesty. That night, they slept on opposite sides of their king-size bed, an ocean of emotional distance between them. 5 months ago. The Ashford Foundation Gala was the kind of event Alexander couldn't afford to miss. 500 of Manhattan's elite gathering to raise money for children's charities while networking and maintaining the social connections that were crucial to his business success. Sophia was 16 weeks pregnant and showing significantly. The formal gown they'd selected emphasized her growing bump, and she'd been looking forward to attending her first major society event as Alexander's partner. 2 hours before they were supposed to leave, Alexander received a call. The Singapore investors just landed. They want to meet tonight. Tonight? We have the Ashford Gala. This is more important. This meeting could seal the Asian expansion. Alexander, we've had this plan for months. I bought a dress. I've been looking forward to it. You can still go. Take a car. Enjoy yourself. I'll meet you there if the meeting ends early. You want me to attend this major social event alone? Visibly pregnant and obviously abandoned by my partner. You're being dramatic. I'm being realistic. People will notice. People will talk. Let them talk. We know the truth. Do we? Because the truth seems to be that your business is more important than your family. Sophia, this is temporary. Once the expansion is complete, when will that be exactly? Give me a date. Alexander couldn't answer because he knew the truth. There would always be another expansion, another deal, another crisis that felt more urgent than the slow, steady work of building a relationship and preparing for parenthood. Go to the gala. Represent us both. I'll make it up to you. How? However you want. I want you to be present. I want you to prioritize our family. I want you to remember why you fell in love with me in the first place. I do remember. Do you? Because lately, it feels like you can barely stand to look at me. It was true, though Alexander couldn't admit it to himself, let alone to her. Every time he looked at Sophia's growing belly, he felt a wave of panic about the responsibilities rushing toward him. 3 babies meant 3 times the demands on his time, his attention, his carefully ordered life. Work felt safe, predictable, controllable. Pregnancy and parenthood felt like chaos. That's ridiculous. I love you. But you don't love this, Sophia said, gesturing to her pregnant body. You don't love what we're becoming. I love you, he repeated, but even he could hear how hollow the words sounded. Sophia attended the Ashford Gala alone that night, and it was there that she met Victoria Ashford, the woman who would ultimately destroy her family. Victoria Ashford was everything Sophia was not: tall, elegant, connected to Manhattan's oldest families, and completely unencumbered by the messy realities of pregnancy and impending motherhood. You must be Sophia Martinez, Victoria said, approaching her at the gala with a champagne flute and a perfect smile. I've heard so much about you from Alexander. You know Alexander? Our families have been friends for generations. Our fathers did business together before Alexander became the real estate mogul he is today. Victoria was stunning in the way that old money bred, understated elegance, perfect posture, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about anything as common as earning a living. He's missed several of these events lately, Victoria continued, her eyes dropping meaningfully to Sophia's bump. I suppose he's been busy with family matters. He's busy with work. Always work. Of course, Alexander was always driven. Even in college, he was obsessed with succeeding, with proving himself to people who already had what he was working so hard to achieve. You knew him in college. Harvard Business School. We dated briefly before he became so focused on building his empire. The revelation hit Sophia like a physical blow. Alexander had never mentioned dating Victoria, never mentioned that his business connections included an ex-girlfriend from one of Manhattan's most prominent families. How briefly? Oh, just a few months. Nothing serious. We were both very young, very different people then. And now we're both successful adults who understand the importance of compatibility. Something in Victoria's tone made Sophia's skin crawl, but she couldn't put her finger on exactly what was wrong with the conversation. Well, it was lovely meeting you. I should probably head home. These events are exhausting when you're carrying 3 babies. 3? My goodness. How? Overwhelming that must be. Victoria's sympathy felt calculated rather than genuine, but Sophia was too tired and too emotionally drained to analyze it further. She went home to an empty penthouse and fell asleep alone, wondering when her relationship with Alexander had become so lonely. The Monday after the Ashford Gala, Alexander received a call that would change everything. Alexander? It's Victoria Ashford. I saw Sophia at the benefit on Saturday. She looked radiant, by the way. Victoria, it's been a long time. Too long. I was sorry to miss you at the gala, but Sophia mentioned you were in a business meeting. Singapore investors. You know how it is. I do indeed. Actually, that's why I'm calling. My father's investment firm is looking at opportunities in the Asian luxury hotel market. I thought we might discuss some synergies. Alexander felt a familiar surge of excitement. The Ashford investment portfolio was legendary, the kind of old money that could fast-track his global expansion by decades. I'd be very interested in that conversation. Wonderful. Why don't we have lunch this week? I can walk you through what they're looking for. That sounds perfect. It was a trap disguised as an opportunity, though Alexander was too blinded by the promise of business success to recognize it. Their lunch meeting at Le Bernardin was supposed to be purely professional. Victoria arrived looking impeccable in a way that reminded Alexander of the sophisticated, uncomplicated life he'd had before pregnancy and responsibility crashed into his world. "You look tired," she observed over appetizers. "It's been a demanding few months. The pregnancy must be challenging, especially with multiples. It's a lot to adjust to." "I imagine so. You've always been someone who thrives on control, on having your life perfectly organized. Suddenly facing 3 infants, it must feel overwhelming." Victoria understood him in a way that felt both flattering and dangerous. She spoke his language, the language of ambition, success, and the fear of losing control. "Sophia seems to be handling it better than I am," he admitted. "Of course she is. She's a nurturer by nature. You're a builder, a creator. Very different personalities. We used to complement each other. And now it feels like we want different things. What do you want, Alexander?" The question was loaded, intimate in a way that should have sent warning bells through his mind. "I want to build something lasting, something that matters. I want to expand Hawthorne Enterprises into a global empire. And Sophia wants a quiet family life, Sunday dinners and children's birthday parties, and domestic bliss." "Exactly. Those aren't necessarily incompatible goals, aren't they? How do I build a global empire while changing diapers and attending school plays? You find a partner who understands that your work is your calling, not just your job. Someone who can support your ambitions rather than competing with them for your attention." Victoria's words echoed in Alexander's mind for days afterward. She'd articulated something he'd been feeling but couldn't express. That Sophia's needs and his ambitions were fundamentally incompatible. Hit that like button if you can see the manipulation happening here. Victoria is playing on Alexander's fears and ambitions, setting the stage for the ultimate betrayal. Make sure you're subscribed because this story is about to get so much worse. For months ago, the business lunches became regular occurrences. Victoria always had new investment opportunities to discuss, new connections to offer, new ways to advance Alexander's global expansion plans. "My father is hosting a dinner for Asian investors next week," she mentioned during their 3rd lunch meeting. "Private, exclusive, the kind of connections that could accelerate your timeline by years." "That sounds incredible. I'd love to bring you as my guest, but it's a very formal affair. Old money, traditional expectations. Appearances matter enormously to these investors." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that showing up with a visibly pregnant girlfriend might send the wrong message about your stability and focus." Alexander felt the familiar sting of shame about his personal situation. In the business world he was trying to penetrate, success was measured not just by financial metrics, but by personal control and social appropriateness. "Sophia's not just my girlfriend. She's my partner. Of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. It's just that these particular investors have very traditional views about family structure and timing. You think they'd judge me for having children before marriage? I think they'd judge you for appearing to lack control over your personal life while asking them to trust you with their money." The seed of doubt was planted expertly. Victoria was giving voice to fears Alexander had been suppressing, that his personal situation was damaging his professional reputation. "What would you suggest?" "Attend as my guest. As a successful businessman exploring opportunities. Keep your personal life private for now." "Wouldn't that look like we're together? Would that be so terrible? We have a history. Our families are connected. It's a natural pairing for this kind of event." Alexander agreed to attend the dinner, telling himself it was purely a business decision. He told Sophia he had a client dinner and would be home late. The evening was intoxicating. Surrounded by old money elegance, treated as Victoria's escort rather than a man facing the chaos of impending triplets, Alexander felt like his old self again, powerful, in control, desired rather than needed. "You're so much more relaxed tonight," Victoria observed as they shared a nightcap at her penthouse after the dinner. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be around people who understand ambition. Sophia doesn't understand. Sophia understands need, security, stability. She doesn't understand the hunger to build something extraordinary. Because she's never had to fight for anything. She's had family, love, security her whole life. She can't comprehend what drives someone who's had to create everything from nothing. Victoria moved closer on the couch, her hand resting lightly on his arm. I understand, though. I understand what it's like to want more than what you were given. To see possibilities that other people can't see. Do you? I understand you, Alexander. I always have. The kiss was inevitable, though afterward Alexander would never be able to pinpoint exactly how it happened. One moment they were talking about business and ambition, the next moment Victoria's lips were on his, and he was kissing her back with a desperate hunger he hadn't felt in months. This is wrong, he said when they broke apart. Is it? Or is it the first honest thing you've done in months? I love Sophia. I'm sure you do. But do you love the life you're building with her? Do you love the man you're becoming? The question pierced through every defense Alexander had constructed around his growing dissatisfaction. I don't know. Then maybe it's time to figure that out. Alexander went home to find Sophia asleep in their bed, her hand resting protectively over her growing belly. At 20 weeks pregnant, she was beautifully, undeniably maternal, everything he'd thought he wanted until he'd tasted the alternative. He showered, washing away Victoria's perfume, and slipped into bed beside the mother of his children while his mind replayed every moment of the evening's betrayal. 3 months ago, the affair escalated quickly. What began as business lunches evolved into intimate dinners, late-night phone calls, and clandestine meetings at Victoria's apartment. Alexander told himself it was temporary, a way of dealing with the stress of impending fatherhood and the pressure of his business expansion. He rationalized it as compartmentalization, work life, home life, and this separate space where he could be the man he used to be. You seem distracted lately, Sophia observed one evening as they sat in the penthouse living room. She was 24 weeks pregnant now, her belly round and prominent, her movements slower and more careful. Just work stress. The Asian expansion is more complicated than I anticipated. Maybe you should scale back. Focus on what we have here instead of trying to conquer the world. I can't scale back now. We're too close to breakthrough. We? Or you? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, I haven't been part of your business decisions in months. You used to ask my opinion, value my input. Now you treat me like an obstacle to your success. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you touched me? Really touched me, not just perfunctory kisses when you leave for work. Alexander realized with a shock that he couldn't remember. Somewhere in the past month, he'd stopped seeing Sophia as a partner and started seeing her as a responsibility. Pregnancy it's a lot to adjust to. For both of us. But I'm adjusting to it. You're running away from it. I'm not running away from anything. Then where were you last Tuesday night? You said client dinner, but when I called your office at 9 p.m., your assistant said you'd left hours earlier. Alexander felt his stomach clench. He'd been with Victoria that night, at her apartment, making love with a passion and freedom he no longer felt at home. I was with investors. Private meeting. Which investors? Sophia, I don't interrogate you about every detail of your day. You don't need to. I'm here. I'm present. I'm accountable to our relationship. And I'm not. Are you? The question hung between them like an accusation. Alexander looked at this woman carrying his children, tired, vulnerable, needing his support, and felt nothing but guilt and resentment. I think I need some space, he said finally. Space? What kind of space? I don't know. Time to think. To figure out what I want. What you want. Alexander, I'm 6 months pregnant with your children. This isn't the time for soul searching. Maybe that's exactly the problem. Maybe this whole situation is happening too fast, too soon. Sophia stared at him in disbelief. Are you saying you want me to terminate the pregnancy? No. God, no. I'm saying I need to figure out how to be the father these children need without losing myself completely. And you can't figure that out while living with me? I don't think I can figure anything out while living with constant reminders of how much my life is about to change. The cruelty of the statement hit both of them simultaneously. Sophia's face crumpled, and Alexander immediately wanted to take it back. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You see me, you see our children, and all you can think about is everything you're losing instead of everything you're gaining. Sophia, get out. What? Get out. If my pregnancy is such a burden to you, if our children are such an inconvenience, then leave. Go figure yourself out somewhere else. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean that. I won't beg you to want the life we're building together. I won't plead with you to love your own children. I do love them, but not enough to love me. Not enough to be present for the process of bringing them into the world. Alexander packed a bag that night and moved into a hotel suite, telling himself it was temporary, just until he could sort through his conflicted feelings. Instead, it became permanent. And it gave him the freedom to pursue his affair with Victoria without the guilt of lying in bed next to the woman he was betraying. 2 months ago, Sophia's world collapsed on a Thursday afternoon when she was 28 weeks pregnant. She'd been having contractions all morning, false labor, according to Dr. Reynolds, but concerning enough that she'd been advised to rest and monitor them closely. When the contractions intensified, she called Alexander's office, desperate to reach him. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Martinez, but Mr. Hawthorne is in meetings all afternoon. Can I take a message? This is a medical emergency. I need to speak with him immediately. Let me try his cell phone." But Alexander's phone went straight to voicemail. Panicked and alone, Sophia called her sister Maria to drive her to the hospital. "Where is he?" Maria asked as they sat in the emergency room, waiting for test results. "I don't know. Work, he says. Always work." "Sophia, you're 7 months pregnant with triplets and having contractions. There is no work emergency more important than that. Tell that to Alexander." Dr. Reynolds determined that Sophia was experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions brought on by stress and dehydration, but she was firm about the need for bed rest and reduced stress. "Your blood pressure is elevated, and you're showing early signs of preeclampsia. With triplets, we need to be extremely careful. Any additional stress could trigger premature labor. What kind of stress should I avoid? Emotional stress, physical stress, anything that elevates your heart rate or blood pressure. You need support, rest, and careful monitoring." Sophia went home to an empty penthouse and tried calling Alexander again. This time, she got through. "Sophia, I got your messages. Are you okay? I was having contractions. I went to the emergency room. My God, are the babies okay? For now? But Alexander, I need you. I can't do this alone anymore. I know. I'll be home tonight. Promise. I promise." But Alexander didn't come home that night, or the next night. When Sophia finally reached him on Saturday, his excuse was another business crisis that required his immediate attention. Desperate and lonely, Sophia decided to surprise him at his office. She took a car to the Hawthorne Enterprises building on Saturday afternoon, planning to suggest they spend the weekend together, reconnecting before the babies arrived. The security guard in the lobby looked confused when she asked for Alexander's floor. "Mr. Hawthorne? He's not here today, ma'am. Haven't seen him all weekend." "Are you sure? He said he had meetings." "No, ma'am. Building's been quiet all weekend." Sophia stood in the lobby of her partner's building, heavily pregnant and facing the undeniable truth. Alexander had lied to her. He wasn't working. He was somewhere else, doing something else, with someone else. The revelation sent her blood pressure spiking so dramatically that she had to sit down in the lobby chair to avoid fainting. It took her 3 days of detective work to discover the truth. 3 days of calling mutual acquaintances, checking social media, and piecing together the fragments of Alexander's double life. The truth came from an unlikely source, a Society blog's coverage of the Ashford Foundation's private dinner party. There, in a photograph captioned, "New York's Most Eligible Couples," was Alexander with his arm around Victoria Ashford, both of them smiling intimately at each other. The photo was dated 2 weeks earlier, the same night Alexander had told Sophia he was working late on investor meetings. "Who is she?" Sophia asked Maria when she brought the printed photo to her sister's apartment. "Victoria Ashford. Old money family, socialite. Exactly the kind of woman men like Alexander are supposed to marry." Supposed to marry? According to society expectations. Beautiful, connected, childless, able to advance his business interests without complicating his personal life. "She's everything I'm not. She's everything you are, plus connections and minus inconvenient things like pregnancy and genuine emotion. How long do you think this has been going on? Does it matter? The question is what you're going to do about it. Sophia looked down at her swollen belly, where 3 babies were growing, children whose father was apparently building a life that didn't include them. I'm going to confront him. Are you sure that's wise? In your condition? I can't live with this uncertainty. I need to know where I stand. That night, Sophia waited in the penthouse for Alexander to come home. When he arrived at nearly midnight, she was sitting in the living room with the photograph on the coffee table. We need to talk, she said quietly. Sophia, it's late. Can this wait until? No, it can't wait. Alexander saw the photograph and went completely still. I can explain. Can you? Because this photo was taken 2 weeks ago, the same night you told me you were working late on investor meetings. It was a business dinner. The Ashford Foundation is a potential partner. Stop lying to me. Sophia's voice was steel-wrapped in exhaustion. I know this woman. I met her at the gala. She's not just a business partner. Alexander sat heavily in the chair across from her, the weight of his deception finally catching up with him. How long? Sophia asked. Sophia, how long have you been having an affair with Victoria Ashford? 6 weeks. Since you moved out? Since before I moved out. The admission hit her like a physical blow. So our relationship problems weren't about adjustment to pregnancy. They were about you cheating on me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You were sleeping with another woman while I was carrying your children. I was confused, overwhelmed. I made mistakes. You made choices. Every lie, every excuse, every night you chose to be with her instead of supporting me through this pregnancy. Those were choices. Alexander looked at this woman he'd claimed to love, carrying 3 of his children, and felt the full weight of his betrayal. I love you, Sophia. I know I've handled this badly, but I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me when it's convenient. But the moment loving me required sacrifice or compromise, you found someone easier. That's not true, isn't it? Victoria doesn't need you to be present during a difficult pregnancy. She doesn't ask you to prioritize family over business. She doesn't complicate your perfect image with something as messy as children. Sophia, please. We can work through this. For the babies. The babies deserve better than parents who stay together out of obligation. What are you saying? I'm saying that after they're born, after I've recovered, we're done. I won't raise 3 children in a relationship built on lies and betrayal. You can't keep my children from me. I'm not keeping them from you. I'm keeping myself from you. There's a difference. If you're feeling Sophia's heartbreak and Alexander's complete moral failure, smash that like button. This betrayal is about to get so much worse as Alexander makes the most selfish decision of his life. Stay subscribed because the wedding day crisis is coming and it will leave you speechless. 1 month ago, after Sophia discovered the affair, Alexander moved permanently out of the penthouse. But instead of ending his relationship with Victoria, he doubled down on it. She knows. He told Victoria over dinner at her apartment the night after the confrontation. I assumed she'd figure it out eventually. How did she take it? Badly. She says we're done after the babies are born. And how do you feel about that? Alexander considered the question. A month ago, the thought of losing Sophia would have devastated him. Now, after weeks of living freely without the constant reminder of his impending responsibilities, he felt relief. I think maybe it's for the best. Really? I've been trying to make a relationship work that was never going to work. We want different things, have different priorities. What do you want, Alexander? I want to build something extraordinary. I want a partner who enhances my ambitions instead of competing with them. I want a life that matches the success I've built. And Sophia can't give you that. Sophia comes with triplets, complications, constant demands for time and attention. I need to focus on business. While I come with connections, understanding, and the ability to support your goals rather than distracting from them. Exactly. Victoria moved closer to him on the couch, her hand tracing patterns on his chest. Alexander, I need to tell you something. My father's investment group has been watching your progress very carefully. Oh, they're prepared to offer you a partnership. $2 billion in capital, access to markets across Asia and Europe, and the connections to become one of the most powerful real estate developers in the world. Alexander's breath caught. The offer was beyond his wildest dreams, the kind of opportunity that came once in a lifetime. What would they want in return? A partnership, and a partner they can trust. Someone who understands their values, their expectations for personal conduct and social responsibility. Someone like you? Someone married to me. The proposal was delivered with elegant directness. Victoria was offering him everything he'd ever wanted professionally, wrapped in a package that would solve his personal dilemma. You're proposing to me? I'm proposing a partnership that benefits us both. You get the capital and connections to build your global empire. I get a husband who shares my ambitions and understanding of what's required for true success. What about love? What about it? We're attracted to each other. We're compatible. We want the same things. That's a better foundation for marriage than whatever emotional chaos you had with Sophia. And the children will be well provided for. You can set up trusts, hire the best nannies, ensure they have every advantage. But they don't have to derail your ambitions or define your future. It was everything Alexander had been unconsciously wanting, a way to maintain his responsibilities as a father while escaping the daily demands of actually being present for his children. When would this partnership begin? The sooner the better. My father is eager to move forward, and the Asian markets won't wait. How soon? 3 weeks. I can have everything arranged. The best planners, the most exclusive venue, 500 guests who matter in our industry. 3 weeks from now, Sophia will be 35 weeks pregnant. Exactly. Far enough along that the babies will be safe if they come early, but not so far that you're distracted by imminent delivery. Alexander felt a chill at Victoria's calculated approach to his children's welfare, but the business opportunity was too enormous to ignore. Where would we hold the wedding? I was thinking the Grand Ballroom at the Hawthorne Grand Hotel. Your signature property, a showcase of your success. Plus, it's convenient. You can set Sophia up in the penthouse during her final weeks of pregnancy. She'll have the best medical care available, and you'll be able to check on her without disrupting your new life. The plan was efficient, practical, and utterly heartless. Alexander would marry Victoria in the ballroom of his own hotel, while the mother of his children lived alone in the penthouse above, waiting to give birth to triplets she would raise essentially as a single mother. That's very thoughtful. I'm a planner, Alexander. I think through all the details so you don't have to. And after the babies are born, Sophia will want to move back to Queens, closer to her family. You can buy her a lovely house, set up generous child support, arrange for regular visitation. The children will have everything they need, and you'll have the freedom to build the life you actually want. Victoria made it sound so reasonable, so logical. A clean solution that provided for everyone's needs without requiring personal sacrifice from Alexander. What do you think? She asked, moving to straddle his lap, her lips brushing against his ear. Ready to build an empire together? That night, Alexander called Sophia to inform her of his decision. You're getting married? In 3 weeks. It's a business arrangement as much as a personal one. Victoria's family has connections that will revolutionize Hawthorne Enterprises. So you're marrying her for money. I'm marrying her because we're compatible in ways that you and I never were. Alexander, I'm 32 weeks pregnant with your children. 32 weeks. I know. That's why I've arranged for you to stay in the penthouse throughout your final trimester. You'll have access to the best medical care, a full staff to help with anything you need, while you marry another woman in the same building. The penthouse and the ballroom are on different floors. You won't be disturbed. Disturbed? Alexander, do you hear yourself? You're planning to get married while I'm upstairs carrying your children. I'm planning to provide for my children while building a stable future for all of us. This isn't stable. This is abandonment. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm taking responsibility for everyone's future in the way that makes the most sense. For who? For you? Because this arrangement is perfect for you. You get a society wife, business connections, and 3 children you don't have to actually parent. I will be present in their lives. As what? A weekend visitor? A stranger who sends checks and shows up for school plays. As their father, who loves them enough to ensure their security and success. Children don't need security and success, Alexander. They need presence and love. They'll have both. No, they'll have money and absence. There's a difference. Sophia hung up on him, and Alexander told himself she was being emotional, unreasonable. He was doing what was best for everyone, providing financial security while pursuing the opportunities that would ensure his children's future prosperity. He was also doing what was best for himself, though he couldn't quite admit that even to his own conscience. The morning of Alexander's wedding to Victoria Ashford dawned crisp and clear, perfect weather for what society reporters were calling the wedding of the decade. In the grand ballroom of the Hawthorne Grand Hotel, florists worked to install massive arrangements of white orchids and roses. The best caterers in Manhattan prepared a 5-course meal for 500 guests. A 12-piece orchestra rehearsed the processional music, while photographers set up equipment to capture every moment of the lavish ceremony. 23 floors above the ballroom, Sophia Martinez woke up in the penthouse feeling like she was living in a nightmare. She was 36 weeks pregnant now, her belly enormous and uncomfortable. Dr. Reynolds had warned her that with triplets, she could go into labor at any time, and she'd been experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions for weeks. "How are you feeling this morning?" asked Maria, who had moved into the penthouse to help care for Sophia during her final weeks of pregnancy. "Like I'm about to give birth in the same building where my baby's father is marrying another woman. We can still leave. Go to Mom and Dad's house. You don't have to stay here for this." "Yes, I do. If I go into labor today, I need to be near the hospital." Dr. Reynolds was very clear about that. "So you're just going to sit here and listen to Alexander's wedding. I'm going to focus on these babies and ignore everything else." But ignoring everything else proved impossible. Starting at 8 in the morning, the sounds of wedding preparation drifted up from the floors below, deliveries being made, vendors shouting instructions, the general chaos of a major society event coming together. At 9 a.m., Sophia felt the first real contraction. Not the false labor she'd been experiencing for weeks, but a sharp, intense pain that took her breath away. "Maria, what is it?" I think this might be the real thing. Should I call the doctor?" "Let's wait and see if they continue." With triplets, false labor can feel very real. But the contractions did continue. Every 20 minutes, then every 15, then every 10, growing stronger and more painful with each wave. By 11 a.m., as Alexander was getting dressed in his groom's suite 2 floors below, Sophia was in active labor. "We need to call Dr. Reynolds," Maria said, timing the contractions. "These are 7 minutes apart and lasting over a minute." "Not yet. I want to be sure." "Sophia, you're having triplets. We can't take chances." I know. But what if this is false labor? What if I go to the hospital and they send me home? Then we go home. But what if this is real labor and we wait too long?" At 11:30 a.m., while guests began arriving for the noon ceremony, Sophia's water broke. "Okay," she gasped between contractions. "Now we call the doctor." But when Maria called Dr. Reynolds' office, they learned she was already at the hospital delivering another patient's baby. "The covering physician is Dr. James Morrison," the receptionist explained. "I'll page him immediately and let him know you're in labor." "How long will it take him to get here?" "He's at Mount Sinai, about 20 minutes away. But with triplets, you should come to the hospital immediately. We'll be right there." But as Maria helped Sophia dress and gather her hospital bag, the contractions intensified dramatically. What had been 7 minutes apart became 5 minutes apart, then 3 minutes apart. "Maria, I don't think we're going to make it to the hospital." "What do you mean?" "I mean these babies are coming now." 23 floors below them, Alexander was adjusting his bow tie and preparing to walk down the aisle to marry Victoria Ashford. 23 floors above him, the woman carrying his children was about to give birth alone. This is getting so intense. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering how this impossible situation resolves, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. The next part of this story will show you exactly what happens when a man's choices collide with life and death consequences. The climax is coming, and it will leave you absolutely speechless. At exactly noon, the orchestra began playing Pachelbel's Canon in D as 500 of Manhattan's most elite guests rose to their feet in the grand ballroom of the Hawthorne Grand Hotel. Victoria Ashford walked down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown that had taken 6 months to create, her train flowing behind her like liquid silk. She was radiant, elegant, the perfect society bride marrying the perfect self-made billionaire. Alexander stood at the altar in his custom tuxedo, looking every inch the successful mogul who had climbed from Queens to the pinnacle of Manhattan real estate. The photographer captured his confident smile as his bride approached. Neither the groom nor any of the guests knew that 23 floors above them, Sofia Martinez was screaming in agony as her body began the process of delivering 3 babies without medical assistance. "Maria, call 911. "I already did. They're on their way." "How long?" 10 minutes. "I can't wait 10 minutes. The first baby is coming now." Maria had taken exactly 1 childbirth class in college, but she found herself thrust into the role of emergency midwife as her sister's body took over the process of birth. "Okay, Sofia, breathe. Just breathe. You know what to do." "No, I don't. I was supposed to have a scheduled C-section. I was supposed to have a medical team." "I know, but the babies don't care about our plans. They're ready to be born." Down in the ballroom, Father Michael began the ceremony with the traditional words, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Alexander Hawthorne and Victoria Ashford in holy matrimony." The irony was devastating. At the exact moment Alexander was promising to love and cherish Victoria Ashford, his 3 children were fighting to be born to a mother who was alone and terrified. "Do you, Alexander, take Victoria to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." As those words left Alexander's mouth, Sofia gave one final, agonizing push and delivered her first child, a tiny, perfect baby girl who came into the world in silence. "She's not breathing," Sofia sobbed. "Maria, she's not breathing." Maria grabbed the baby and began the infant CPR she remembered from a long-ago babysitting course, desperately trying to clear the tiny airways and stimulate breathing. "Come on, little one. Come on." After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds, the baby girl let out a weak cry. "She's okay. She's breathing." But there was no time to celebrate. Sofia's body was already contracting again, preparing to deliver the second baby. "Do you, Victoria, take Alexander to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." As Victoria spoke her vows, Sofia delivered her second child, a baby boy who came out blue and struggling. "This one's in trouble," Maria called out as she worked frantically to help the baby breathe. "Where are the paramedics? Any minute now?" But minutes felt like hours when Sofia could see that her son was not responding the way his sister had. His lips were blue, his breathing labored, his tiny body struggling with the trauma of premature birth. "By the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." The ballroom erupted in applause as Alexander kissed Victoria, sealing their marriage while his children fought for their lives just floors above. The third baby, another boy, was born as the wedding guests were being seated for the reception. He was the smallest of the 3, and he wasn't breathing at all. "Maria, I need you to help this one while I push out the placenta. I don't know what to do. Do what you did with his sister. Please." Maria worked desperately on the tiny boy while Sofia's body completed the delivery process. She could hear sirens in the distance, but they seemed impossibly far away. Finally, mercifully, the third baby let out a weak cry. "They're all breathing," Maria sobbed with relief. "All 3 of them are breathing." But Sofia had lost a tremendous amount of blood during the delivery. She was pale, shaking, and drifting in and out of consciousness. "Something's wrong with me," she whispered. "I don't feel right." "The paramedics are here. I can hear them in the hallway." The EMT team burst into the penthouse to find a scene of controlled chaos: 3 newborn babies, 1 woman in critical condition from blood loss, and Maria, trying to keep everyone stable and warm. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately," the lead paramedic announced after checking Sofia's vital signs. "She's hemorrhaging internally." "What about the babies?" "They're premature, but stable. We'll transport all 4 to Mount Sinai." As the medical team worked to stabilize Sofia and prepare the babies for transport, one of the paramedics asked the crucial question, "Where's the father? We need his consent for emergency procedures." He's downstairs," Maria said, her voice breaking. "He's getting married." Excuse me. The father of these babies is getting married to someone else. Right now? In this building. The paramedics stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious? Dead serious. Well, we need him now. This woman needs emergency surgery, and those babies are going to need immediate medical intervention. I'll get him, Maria said grimly. As the paramedics prepared Sophia and the babies for transport, Maria took the elevator down to the ballroom level. She could hear the sounds of celebration, laughter, music, the clinking of champagne glasses. She pushed through the doors of the grand ballroom just as Alexander was giving his toast to the assembled guests. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate Victoria and my new beginning. Alexander. Maria's voice cut through the elegant atmosphere like a knife. 500 heads turned to stare at the woman in blood-stained clothes standing in the doorway of the reception. Maria? What are you doing here? Your children are being born upstairs. Right now? And Sophia is dying. The ballroom fell completely silent. The orchestra stopped playing. Waiters froze with champagne bottles in their hands. Victoria's face went white as the reality of the situation crashed over the wedding reception. What did you say? Alexander's voice was barely a whisper. Sophia went into labor 3 hours ago. She just delivered 3 babies alone in the penthouse while you were down here getting married. She's hemorrhaging and needs emergency surgery. The paramedics need your consent. Alexander stood frozen at the head table, still holding his champagne glass, still wearing his boutonniere, the perfect image of a successful groom whose world was about to collapse. The babies are alive but critical. They need their father. Now. Right now? The ambulance is waiting. Alexander looked around the ballroom, at Victoria in her wedding gown, at 500 guests staring at him in shock, at the elaborate reception that was supposed to celebrate his new life. Then he looked at Maria, covered in his children's blood, begging him to choose his family over his image. For the first time in months, Alexander Hawthorne was faced with a choice he couldn't rationalize away. This is the moment of truth. If you're feeling the incredible tension of this impossible choice, smash that like button and subscribe. Will Alexander choose his new wife and the life he thought he wanted, or will he finally step up for the woman who's dying to give him 3 children? Part 3 will show you exactly what happens when a man's character is truly tested.